Welcome to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. Have a question for the show or need assistance with your retirement plan? Give Philip a call today. 863-285-3815. 863-285-3815.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show. I am Jen Rezac, happy to be here alongside Philip Statler. He is president and founder of Statler Financial Services right here in Sebring. And Philip, we've got a great show lined up today, going to be talking a little bit about bad financial habits. Any time is a good time to break a bad habit, whether you want to make improvements in your routine at home, your job performance at work, with your physical health or your financial health. The time to make a positive change for your future is right now, and you are in the right place as we get into this here today. Philip, 3 out of 4 Americans don't have a written financial plan. That means most of us are winging it when it comes to spending. So when we talk about bad financial habits, how could we break the bad habit of living without a budget?
You know, Jen, that's probably one of the hardest ones out there. And today it's become easier, right? Because there's all kinds of apps that people can track their expenses. To me, that's the hardest part, right? I mean, we know where the income's coming from, but tracking our expenses, what are we spending money for and what are we spending it on? Because that really helps us to kind of figure out what retirement's going to look like for us in terms of how much money do we need to spend or will we have to spend in retirement? Too often people, I think, do it backwards, right? They say, here's my pot of money and I'm going to spend it till it's gone. The problem is that it can be gone and they still have fixed costs that they have to cover. And so that's why the budget is so important. So tracking your expenses and what you're spending money on will give you so much understanding of what your budget needs to look like and how much money you're really and truly going to need in retirement to have the retirement you always dreamed of.
Right. And when we talk about some of these bad habits, Philip, complacency, I think that's another bad habit for a lot of us. We don't make regular adjustments to our portfolio. We don't pay attention to the fees we're paying. Keep our money with some financial institutions just because we don't like to take the time to explore other options. It's just easier to put things away and just leave them. How does working with someone like you help us keep from becoming too complacent when it comes to our retirement money?
Well, I think complacency is easy, right? Because, hey, if it's in the back of my mind, I'm not worried about it. But it also means that it's in the back of your mind. You're not worried about it. Things could go wrong and you're not paying attention until it's too late. And so that's where I think complacency is the deal. You need to be on top of your retirement finances. And that's why we meet with our clients, at least once, if not twice to 3 times a year to make sure that they're on track. They're doing what they need to do and that their income is sufficient to get them where they need to be. Nobody likes to make changes, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the show today. Is that change is hard, and nobody likes to make changes because of that. So it does mean that we have to make some changes, though, because otherwise, being complacent is going to take over, and that's just a dangerous place to be. If too many things can go wrong, and we don't want to see that happen to folks in retirement.
Right. As I mentioned, a lot of times we don't pay attention to things like the fees that we're paying. Talk a little bit about how much the impact things like that can have on our retirement. When we talk about things we aren't always paying attention to, sometimes it's fees because they seem minimal, but how much of an impact could that have on us over time?
Well, you're right, Jen, because they can seem minimal, but the other thing they can see is they can be hidden. Right? We don't know where they are. And so they can be very impactful from that standpoint. So let's just look at a few numbers here, right? So if we look at some historical data that Vanguard kind of put together, we know that from 1926 until 2019, that if you had a blend of 80% stocks and 20% bonds in your portfolio, that you would have earned about 9.7% a year on average over that time span. So that's pretty good. If you're putting $1,000 a month away over 40 years. Now, granted, in 1926, that would have been a lot of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
still, it would have grown to $5.8 million.
Wow.
But if you think about fees for a minute and the impact they could have, if you were paying just 1%, that means your 9.7 would now be 8.7% on average. Over that same 40-year period of time, you would have only had a portfolio of 4.3 million. Now, it's still a lot of money, don't get me wrong. But what I want you to focus on is the difference. The difference between those two numbers, that's $1.5 million. That's 25% of your wealth to fees. That tiny 1%. And so that's why I think it's important that people know what the fees are they're paying. Now, don't get me wrong. There's going to be some fees. We can't get away without some fees. The issue is, where are those fees and what are you getting for those fees? Are you getting somebody there that can answer your phone calls, that will give you the right advice, that will be I call it the 411 and 911, right? Are they going to be there for that conversation on tax issues? Are they going to be there for that conversation on buying versus leasing a vehicle? These are all things that coaching in retirement play a part to. So the question I have for folks out there today is, do you have a financial broker, a financial advisor, or do you have a true financial and retirement coach? Somebody that's there for you to answer your questions and to help make sure that the decisions you make are in your best interest, not theirs. And that's what we really do here at Statler Financial. We're here to be your retirement coach, to help you get into retirement and to make sure that you have the retirement you always dreamed of. If you're not working with that type of person, or you're not working with anybody and you need to find that right fit for you, let us help coach you into and through retirement. Give us a call at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Let us coach you in retirement.
That number one more time, 863-285-3815. Philip, when we're talking a little bit about some of these bad financial habits, leaving tax breaks on the table is another bad habit to break. Talk a little bit about how having a tax-efficient retirement strategy can help keep you on track so you have more money for your own use in retirement. The same concept as watching those fees. Less fees means more money for you. Less taxes means more money for you as well, right?
You're absolutely right, Jen. And people don't think about taxes when they think about retirement. And that can be a problem, right? Because taxes do play an important role on both, I'm going to say both sides of the fence, right? So there are times when I sit down with folks that they're paying too much in taxes. They're not making the right decisions with their investments for their current path to retirement. I have other folks that I sit down with that are the opposite end of the spectrum. They're not doing enough right now to pay taxes, that we want to take more out of their IRAs or more out of their retirement accounts and move them to Roths or move them to non-qualifieds, so that they're paying some tax now at these extremely low rates. But the problem is that this industry, if you call the local brokerage firm, they're going to say, well, we can't help you with that. If you call one of the major wirehouses or one of the major firms out there, they'll say, if you ask them a tax question, they say, oh, we can't help you with that. Do I do a Roth conversion or not? We don't know. We can't answer that question. And that's where coaching comes into play, and helping people through that process and make sure they're making the right choices when it comes to taxes and how they've got their accounts allocated, Jen.
So, Philip, one last area of bad financial habits, procrastination. This can get the best of us. It's a habit we should all try to break. What's your message to people who've been procrastinating when it comes to creating a plan for their retirement?
Well, let's talk about that next segment, okay?
You just want to wait? Just put it off until later.
We'll just wait a little while, Hey, procrastination, it can be your biggest enemy, right? Because we're trucking along, doing our thing, thinking about retirement, but putting off those big questions like, do I have enough money to retire? Do I have the right allocation for my retirement? Am I doing things right? Do I have a plan in place to help me get through retirement? And that's the problem. Nobody wants to take the time to put together that retirement income plan. And I think that's most people's missing piece, because a lot of people, you said earlier, 25% of the folks out there do have a financial plan. The problem is a lot of times a financial plan doesn't go to that nth degree to put together that retirement income plan. The details needed to make that work. And that's really what I think folks need to understand today, is that we need to have that retirement income plan. Don't procrastinate. Put your fears behind you. Take a step forward and embrace the fact that we need to have a plan in place. We need that roadmap to know where we're going to be taking money from, when we're going to take it, and how long that's going to last, to make sure that what we have is enough and it's going to last us as long as we're here on this earth. Because nobody wants to run out of money before they run out of life. Folks, listen, if you're one of those folks out there, which most likely 90% of you are, you don't have a retirement income plan in place, a physical written document for your income plan, give us a call and let's walk you through that process. 863-285-3815. Folks, that's the number you need to call. Again, 863-285-3815. That's the number you need to call to schedule your financial x-ray. That easy. Again, that number is 863-285-3815. Folks, don't procrastinate. Pick up the phone, call right now, and get on the calendar, and let's start the process.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be back.
In times of volatility, the only wrong move is not making one. Call Philip and the team at Statler Financial Services today and find out where you currently stand with your portfolio. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Remember that first paycheck when you started working all those years ago and you looked at the net amount and thought, whoa, what happened here? Well, it could be this way with your retirement accounts. You know how much you've saved, but if you haven't planned for Uncle Sam, you could come up short in retirement. With tax laws constantly changing, there's a lot you need to know to make sure you're not paying more than your fair share. Philip Statler and the Statler Financial Team have helped hundreds of families plan for retirement for more than 20 years. They'll help you create a plan that shows you how taxes could affect you now and in the future. Set up a visit with Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial. Just give them a call at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Make sure you know how these changes could affect you so you can avoid some of those whoa moments in retirement. Call 863-285-3815. Firm offers insurance services but may not give tax advice. Advisory services are offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida.
I want to help you understand some things. Number one, timing of your R&B, because they could potentially push you into a higher tax bracket. Imagine how fast your savings could shrink if you rack up penalties along with taking regular withdrawals and paying taxes.
Time to retire right. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show. I am Jen Rezac, happy to be here alongside Philip Statler. Philip is the inaugural Highlander Award winner for Financial Representative of the Year. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring, and Philip knows very well that it's a lot easier to get a job done if you have the right tools. And we want to help you understand that the financial tools you need for retirement are a little different from what you used during your working years. We want to talk about that and help you pack your retirement toolkit. And Philip, you know what I'm talking about here, right? When you're trying to get something done around the house, for example, and you don't have the right tools to finish the project. It's a mess. Has this ever happened to you?
So I'm going to talk about two things right here.
Okay.
One is a simple one, right? My truck.
Yes.
Not the house, but truck. I wanted to put change the front plate on my truck, right? It had a FSU tag there. I wanted to take it off, put my new one on. And I went down there and I thought it was an Allen wrench, a simple Allen wrench. I went and got my Allen wrenches. None of them would fit. And I looked at it and says, well, it don't even look like an Allen wrench. And so I went to the store and I got something else that looked like that's what it was. Came back, tried that. It was the wrong tool again. So I ended up taking it to the dealership just to get my license plate changed because I couldn't figure out what tool I needed to fix the goddamn thing.
Yeah.
So it's that's one of those things. The other one that really sits in the back of my head, and I try not to remember this one too much, is I decided to remodel my bathroom by myself.
Oh, how'd that go?
I know you and I don't know each other very, very well, but I'm not a handy person at all. I made a lot of trips to the hardware store to get stuff that I didn't have and needed for that project. So, and it's frustrating, right? When you get in those situations.
Yeah, it is. And, you think about some of these situations you've been in, if you had a hammer, there are some things that you could technically get done, maybe not well, than if you needed a wrench and maybe try to just knock the thing off with a hammer. It could have gotten the job done, but maybe a little bit messier. So I think that kind of brings in our point
Jim,
here.
The other thing that just hit me is that the biggest frustration is not knowing what tool I needed.
Yeah.
Especially trying to change the daggum license plate, right? I didn't know what tool I needed.
Right.
And so I had to take it to the dealership to get a simple license plate changed.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It is so frustrating when you just can't figure out what it is that you need. And I think that is a perfect segue into talking about these financial tools, trying to figure out exactly what the financial tools that we need, what those things are. And if you do a search for retirement tools, I did this, you get millions of search results. So there is a lot to search through. I mean, Philip, you think about your frustration trying to find the right wrench. Now there's millions of hits and you're trying to sort through this. One of them that I found that I thought was kind of interesting was from the Department of Labor. It was a federal government called a retirement toolkit, this PDF that you could download. And I looked through it and it had some resources about Social Security. It had some articles about Medicare, and then it had a couple things about the basics of retirement savings plans. So that was in the federal government's little retirement toolkit: Social Security, Medicare, and retirement savings plans. What would you say might be missing from that list? What else would you say needs to be in our retirement toolkit?
I looked at that list and there's a lot of missing stuff in that list. I mean, I think the timeline that they put in that article is good. I mean, when you should start doing certain things. Okay. Outside of that, it doesn't give you really and truly any strategies or investment tools that you can use. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing is what tools do I need? And I'll just tell you that, if you go to certain people, you're going to get their tools that are available to them, and they don't have any access to any other tools. Okay. Like when you go to Ford, you're going to get Ford dealership, they're going to use Ford parts. They're going to do all that stuff. It's going to be specific to them. And so where if you went to a regular mechanic outside of the dealership, they're going to pick and choose whatever is going to work the best and maybe save you some money too, right, on the parts they buy. Right. And it's the same thing in the financial world. Not everybody has access to all the same tools out there. Being an independent advisor, we do. We have access to all the tools to put together the retirement plan that's going to be there and it's going to be needed. And so I think that's the key. And part of that whole key is risk. How much risk do you have in your portfolio? What tools are you using to mitigate some of that risk? And if you don't know, that's where we come in. Yeah. That's why we developed the financial x-ray. Part of that financial x-ray is to help you determine, number one, what is the amount of risk that's appropriate for you? Number two, how much risk do you have in your current portfolio? If you don't know the answers to those two questions on a scale of 1 to 100, you need to give us a call. It's that simple. The number to call is 863-285-3815. 863-285-3815. Give us a call and let us help you find out how much risk you have in your portfolio and make sure that it's the right amount of risk for you personally. And that's what we do at Statler Financial. 863-285-3815.
Talking today with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring, talking about our retirement toolkit, because it is frustrating when you think about that idea of trying to accomplish something and not having the right tools. This is frustrating when we think about a car repair project or a home improvement project. It's also really frustrating to think about when it comes to our financial goals. And I think that's part of it as well, Philip. Sometimes we don't understand that certain tools are going to be used in certain ways, right? So if we are looking for growth and we have an annuity, we might be very frustrated and saying, well, this is not a good tool, but we're not using it the right way. So how do we get some help matching up the right tools for the goals, for the job that we're trying to accomplish?
And Jen, that's a good point, because I have to remind clients of that all the time, is that, they're disappointed in the earnings of an annuity, or they're disappointed because of the ups and downs of the marketplace. And so we have to remind that, hey, everything that we do has a specific job and a specific task in place. That's one reason that we run through that risk analysis, right? Mm-hmm. Because we want to know what tools we should be selecting from. And that risk analysis really gives us that different options of what tools would work best in your circumstances. Mm-hmm. And so whether we need a lot of income, whether we need more safety because, you don't want a lot of risk in your portfolio, all these things will help determine what tools we are going to use, whether that's an annuity, whether that's a real estate investment trust, whether that's just mutual funds and stocks. We don't know until we sit down and put together a plan. Anybody that just puts you in an investment without having a plan in place, that is problematic from the beginning. Jim.
Right. So let's say, Philip, that our goal is generating income. That's the job that we are trying to get done with our money. What are some of the tools that we might use for that?
So there's a vast array, right? So there's CDs, right, and other safe investments. Now, there's problems with that, right? Because they don't pay anything. We're not going to really generate much income. Right. We're going to use our principal. You can use a laddered bond portfolio, using the interest from the bonds, and just put them on a short-term laddering schedule, 3 to 5 years. You're going to ladder them out. You could look at a stock dividend portfolio, a portfolio that has specifically put together to generate dividends, and those dividends get paid out to folks. High yield bonds, high yield corporate debt, systematic withdrawals from a balanced portfolio. Now, I see that one a lot. I will tell you that it can cause people some headaches because of the ups and downs in the market.
Sure.
While they're taking money out of that portfolio.
Okay.
Not the best strategy that I've seen. There's an immediate annuity. Mm-hmm. You put money in, you're going to get a lifetime income. Variable annuities with some kind of guaranteed income feature will create that income that you may need. And then a holistic retirement asset allocation plan, which lends itself to putting together a portfolio that's very well diversified. And so you know where the money's coming from each and every month. And then for us, we like the bucket approach, right? It's kind of like the holistic retirement asset allocation plan, but we use money in buckets or silos. And that's worked well for our clients.
Okay, so those are some ideas for income. Let's talk about if our goal is growth. That now we're looking at some different tools. What are some of the things that we might think about there?
So here we look at things like stocks, right? Stock market, having a diversified portfolio of growth stocks, using a mutual fund that you have somebody that's doing those allocations for you, using an ETF. Using a real estate investment trust will give you maybe some growth that's more towards income, but it is a possibility to give us kind of an in-between growth and income, as well as an indexed annuity will give you kind of both, right? It'll give you some expectations for growth, but could also be used for the income side. And with any type of a tool that you use, they all have different things. Stock market, you have the risk of ups and downs. Annuities, you have surrender charges and liquidation requirements. You can only take out so much a year. So there's different things with each of these tools that we need to understand and know that we're using those tools because of what they'll do and how they'll do it.
Right. And that's, again, your process for helping us put those tools into place in the right way. It's called the Financial X-ray Report. And you do things like help us find the right balance between growth and safety, putting the right money in growth versus income. That's what your whole process is all about.
That's right. So the whole thing about creating that financial X-ray is to make you aware of where you currently stand in relationship to your portfolio and how much risk it has. The second part of that is, how can we take that portfolio and minimize the risk so that it's appropriate for you? And there's several ways that we do that. And it all depends on what that number looks like for you. To find out what your number is, between 1 and 100, give us a call, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. And let's get started with your financial X-ray. 863-285-3815.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be back.
Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
You can't see it, but you sure can feel it. The economy is struggling right now. Do you know how it might affect your retirement? Some retirement plans take into account economic downturns, stock market dips, interest rate fluctuations. Does yours? Take charge of your retirement by calling Philip Statler at 863-285-3815. Philip and his team at Statler Financial have been helping families prepare for retirement for over 20 years. They will help address the current economic situation and help you create a retirement plan designed to give you the confidence to move forward. Opportunities can exist regardless of economic conditions. Call the team, Philip Statler with Statler Financial at 863-285-3815 and find out ways you can prepare now for your retirement. Call 863-285-3815. Call them now. Schedule a visit. Let's get started. Firm offers insurance services. Advisory services are offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
I want to help you understand some things. Number one, timing of your RMD, because they could potentially push you into a higher tax bracket. Imagine how fast your savings could shrink if you rack up penalties along with taking regular withdrawals and paying taxes.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler and co-host Jen Rezac.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show. I am Jen Rezac, happy to be here alongside Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services here in Sebring. Philip is the inaugural Highlander Award winner for Financial Representative of the Year, talking with me today about packing our retirement toolkit. There are so many financial tools out there. It seems like there should be a solution for just about every problem. But here's one of the issues that we have. First of all, Philip, and we talked about this earlier, if you only have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. Here's the other thing. Sometimes we have an emotional reaction to certain tools or products. We reject them based on what we've heard or what we assume. And we don't do this with physical tools, Philip. Nobody says, oh, I don't like screwdrivers, so I'm never going to use one in anything ever. But we do this with money. Talk about that and why that's a dangerous line of thinking.
Well, you're right. They do. I can't tell you how many times I've sat down with folks and we run the risk analysis and they need more safety. And we start talking about annuities and indexed annuities. And all of a sudden you see the whites of their eyes light up. And it's like, oh, no. We can't do that.
Right.
Why? Why can't you? Do you know, have you used them before? Oh, no. But my brother-in-law told me, it's terrible. We should never use those. Well, it's a tool. And if used properly in the right circumstances, will do you justice in your portfolio. I get the flip side of that, right? I sit down with folks and usually that person I say the annuity word to, they've got everything in stocks and mutual funds.
Yikes.
Now, take the next person. We run their risk analysis number, and they have all their money sitting in CDs.
Mm-hmm.
And they need more risk. We need to look at, for you, a very conservative tactical portfolio. Oh, no. We're not going to go in the stock market. So, because all they've seen, all they've heard is bad things, right? They don't look at, I mean, they do hear about their, the guy on the golf course that said he made 100%, but, he stretched, it was like a fishing story, right? So, but that's the problem is people look at those tools, and those tools used properly will give you the results that you need. And I think, look, you're hiring a professional, right? If you went to a contractor and said, look, I need you to build my house, but I'm against you beating nails with a hammer. You can't use a hammer.
Doesn't make sense.
How are you going to build your house?
Right.
They can't. You got to look at all the tools and what they're designed to do. And as long as you're using them for what they're designed to do, that's what you should use them for.
Right. And you know what? I like that word that you used a few moments ago when you said we need to get tactical here. That's an important part of this. We don't want to be just randomly picking and choosing where we're going to put our money, going through and just clicking on different places online and saying, okay, I'll try some here, and some here. We need to be tactical with this. That's what helps us make sure our money's going to last. I just want to clue in on that word for just a second, because I think that's an important word that you used.
Well, that's true. And so I've learned a long time ago, because I've lived through 2 major bear markets, right?
Yeah.
And what I learned in those bear markets is that, hey, having that pretty pie chart asset allocation, it didn't work. It didn't work in 2000 or 2008. If you were in that pie chart in a conservative portfolio, you still lost money.
Yeah.
And so that taught me that you need a well-devised tactical portfolio that does look at the economic situation. It looks at how high the stock market is getting. It looks at all these other factors to build its portfolio. And it's different than just buy and hold.
Right.
Just being tactical means, hey, there may be times that we make wholesale changes in that portfolio. And there may be times that we don't make any changes. There may be times that we take risk off the table, so we don't have as much risk in that portfolio. Versus buy and hold, you don't make any changes. Maybe once a year you come in and do a little bit of change here or there. It's just a different mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And over the years, my experience has taught me that tactical has worked better over time.
Right. So let me just put that out there. If you have been working with somebody and that word tactical strategy, if you don't think those things are being addressed in a way that makes sense for you, or if you don't feel like there has been a change in those strategies, in those tactics after you got into retirement, 863-285-3815 is the way to reach Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services. That's 863-285-3815. And also, Philip, we can go to your website and get on the calendar as well, right? StatlerFinancial.com.
That's right. You can go to StatlerFinancial.com, and there is a calendar link there that you can get to my calendar. And again, the number is 863-285-3815. To schedule a time just to sit down and analyze your portfolio. Because the other part of that, Jen, is, have you had any changes made in your portfolio at all in the last year? If not, you're not in a tactical portfolio.
Great point. Again, 863-285-3815. And if you'd like to just put yourself on Philip's calendar, go to StatlerFinancial.com and you can do that there as well. StatlerFinancial.com. As we're talking about this retirement toolkit, Philip, another financial tool that's out there is life insurance. And this is one of those things, I have a young family. I have 4 kids. We still have a mortgage. So obviously life insurance is a part of my financial plan, what my husband and I have. We have life insurance for the kids. How could that potentially fit into a retirement toolkit, though?
Well, that's a good point. So most people think they get to retirement, they don't need life insurance anymore. And some people stay away from permanent life insurance because they only want it for a certain period of time. And I understand all those different theories and different philosophies around life insurance. But there's 2 areas that I think life insurance, if started early enough, now that it could make some sense. One is that a permanent life insurance policy started young enough and funded on a well-balanced plan could create income in retirement.
Okay.
If planned properly and done right, it could being the primary word there, produce some income in retirement. The other important aspect of it is that most life insurance policies today will have a couple different riders associated with it. They'll have a long-term care rider sometimes, but most of them have a terminal illness rider. And the terminal illness rider says, "Babe, look, if a doctor says I'm going to die sometime in the next 12 months, then you can have access to some of that death benefit."
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that becomes important. And for those that have a long-term care rider, then that life insurance policy could double as a partial, not a full, long-term care benefit for you. And every policy is different. You need to understand exactly what you have to see what benefits are available for you down the road. But that is a possibility. It could be there for that issue if you have the right type of permanent policy.
Right. And it's interesting when you talk about some of those options, some of those riders, some of those things available on life insurance policies today on some of them that perhaps weren't there, years and years ago. What about things like long-term care? That is we have some different tools and solutions to deal with that. We used to have these traditional standalone long-term care policies, but you were just talking to some of the options potentially with long-term care. So a lot of the tools that we have today are different for today's retirees. You need to keep that in mind if you're getting some advice from your father-in-law or your aunt or your neighbor, right? The tools that we have today might be different from what they were using.
That's right. If you have a policy, if you have a policy that you had 20, 25 years ago, it may not have any of this stuff in it. So it may make sense to say, okay, what's out there today? Can I take what I have and put it into something new? Maybe not, but it may be worth that discussion, Jen, to find out if that would put you in a better place financially going forward.
So, Philip, let's talk about how you help somebody find the right combination of tools for a comprehensive strategy, how you help them figure out what needs to be in income, what needs to be in growth. What are the concerns that we need to address as it relates to things like long-term care and healthcare? How do you help somebody build that comprehensive strategy that's going to handle all these different aspects?
So that's a good question, Jen, and it boils down to a couple different things. One is the financial x-ray, where we determine, based on that, how much risk you can tolerate within your portfolio. Second, we're going to look at what we call the rule of 100. And that is going to say, hey, we're going to take 100 minus your age, and that's going to give us some idea of how much you should have risk in your portfolio. Is it exact science? No. That number gets tweaked plus or minus depending on your current circumstances. But that's the second way we look at risk. And the third thing we do is we build a financial income plan, a retirement income plan that's written down for you. And that retirement income plan, like I said in the past, we use a bucket approach. So we're going to use a bucket, and certain buckets are going to last certain amounts of time. And over time, it's going to grow and still provide you the income you're going to need. And so based on that plan that we put together, then we look and see what tool do we need for each of those buckets. And that could be drastically different for you than it is for my grandmother. It's going to be different. So it's not one size fits all. It's going to depend upon the person, how much income they need, how much risk they can tolerate as to which tools we're going to use. But we're going to walk through a process to get to the answer to that question. And if you don't have a written retirement income plan, that could be an issue, right? How do you know what tools to put in place if you don't have a plan in place? Give us a call and let us help you determine, one, how much risk you have, two, what that income plan needs to look for you and what the right tools are to put into that plan. Give us a call at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. I'd love to sit down with you and coach you into and through retirement. That number one more time is 863-285-3815.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be back.
Do you have a retirement plan but would like a second opinion? Call Philip Statler today, 863-285-3815. Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. Remember that first paycheck when you started working all those years ago and you looked at the net amount and thought, whoa, what happened here? Well, it could be this way with your retirement accounts. You know how much you've saved, but if you haven't planned for Uncle Sam, you could come up short in retirement. With tax laws constantly changing, there's a lot you need to know to make sure you're not paying more than your fair share. Philip Statler and the Statler Financial Team have helped hundreds of families plan for retirement for more than 20 years. They'll help you create a plan that shows you how taxes could affect you now and in the future. Set up a visit with Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial. Just give them a call at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Make sure you know how these changes could affect you so you can avoid some of those whoa moments in retirement. Call 863-285-3815. Firm offers insurance services but may not give tax advice. Advisory services are offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show. Right now, watching out for things that could harm your retirement with Philip Statler. And Philip, turns out there are about as many risks to your retirement income as there are James Bond movies, because they just keep coming, right?
One after another, man. It's hard to
after
believe
another.
There's a bunch of them out there.
I know. There's getting close to 30 at this point. And of course, Sean Connery, George Lazenby, I think he just did one, Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, Pierce Brosnan, and our current James Bond happens to be my favorite, Daniel Craig. I don't know. Are you a Bond fan? Do you have a favorite Bond actor?
Daniel Craig better than Sean Connery?
Yeah.
Really?
I believe so. So you're team Sean Connery then?
I do like Sean Connery and Pierce Brosnan. I've always liked him in pretty much anything he's been in.
Yeah.
Those are probably my two favorites.
All right. Yeah, no, I really like Daniel Craig. I think he's pretty good Bond. He's a bit gritty, so it's a little bit different than some of those other ones. But yeah, just like those Bond movies and the guys who play Bond, they just keep coming. They just keep coming, and just like that, those risks to our retirement income just keep coming as well. I don't know, maybe I should have gone through the Bond villains as we talk about the risks to our retirement income, but nobody likes to talk about the bad guy, really. Right. But what are some of those big risks to your retirement income?
Well, if you think about it, I don't know, there's 26 or 30 of them out there, but longevity, which we talked about, is definitely one of them. That the risk of living longer than your money is going to last is just a big thing out there that people are concerned about. Inflation, market volatility, taxes to me could be bigger than anybody ever imagined, given where we are today in the lowest tax situation we've ever seen. There's no way to go but up, and that scares me. So we have to be ready for that. And then obviously long-term care. And like I said, longevity. I think those are the key things I think that retirees really think about and have nightmares about sometimes.
Talk a little bit about some of the options we have, Philip, if we are worried we could outlive our savings. What are some of the options for dealing with that?
Well, the one that comes to my mind really and truly is annuities. And why? Because annuities were developed just for that one purpose. Way back in the, I don't remember, 1850s, 1860s, whenever it was that they were developed, by the Presbyterian Church to take care of their ministers in retirement. And they were created for that purpose, to create lifetime income. And so I think that that's a tool that is so often overlooked and underutilized. Now, granted, everything's got to be taken in moderation, because I've seen the opposite, right? I've sat down with people who some annuity salesman has sold them, almost all their money's tied up in annuities. And that's not right either, folks. There's a balance that needs to be made. And so that's what we really look at, is balancing the income need with the growth need, and make sure that we're taking care of both those things, because you don't know how long you're going to live. None of us do. And so we have to be prepared for that 100-year mark. It's becoming more normal than what it ever has before. And so I think we have to be prepared for that. And one way to do that, one tool to use is to use an annuity to provide that income for the rest of your life. And that's really what I do here at Statler Financial is income planning is one of the big things that we're all about here. And so, knowing how much income you're going to need and developing that plan that provides you with the comfort of knowing that you've got the income to last your lifetime. So it's something you need to have. If you don't have a written income plan and you're 5 years out from retirement, or you've already retired and don't have an income plan, please give me a call and let's start that process today. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Let's get started today to make sure you're on the right path for your retirement. 863-285-3815.
So important to make sure we're thinking about these things. Another risk, Philip, what do you do to help keep taxes from taking too much of a bite out of your savings? I mean, how frustrating to do all the work and save as much as you can for retirement, and then get to where it's time to start tapping into those accounts and not think about the taxes and the fact that you don't actually have as much to spend as you thought you did.
One of my favorite people to listen to is Ed Slott, and Ed Slott, he's the IRA guru of the country. He's called on a lot to talk about that, and he always says, you know what, that IRA, that 401k, is not just yours. You have a partner, and that partner's the IRS, and people forget that, right? It's not all your money. Every time you take some out, guess what? IRS is there with their hand out. They want some too. It's one of the things that because of my background in taxation, and that I still actually am actively put myself in that place to actually do some returns, I understand what that means. I believe tax rates are going to go up. And so we need to take advantage of the tax situation we have right now, the lowest tax rates we're probably ever going to see. And so we help clients really take advantage of whatever tax situation is out there, from being in a high tax bracket and needing money. Okay, so we have to plan that distribution. Do we have any money that's not retirement money? So we help people decide where to take money from to be as tax efficient as possible. The flip side of that, though, Jen, is that people are in an ultra low tax bracket and they're not taking any money out of their IRAs, or they're taking very little money out of their IRAs. So they're wasting their standard deduction. They're wasting their low tax bracket. And so we bring that to their attention. We help them plan to better use the tax brackets they're in, whether that means Roth conversions or just taking the money out and using it in other ways. But taxes are a big deal. And taxes to me are an area that planning, the planning for taxes is underutilized in our industry. And it's because a lot of times the financial advisors out there, they don't have an understanding of taxes. You know, if they're part of a big company, the big company say, hey, you can't give tax advice. You know, you got to send them down the road for that. And so, you know, those things kind of set us apart, make us a little different than the other folks out there on the street is because that is my background. And it's something that I still do on a regular basis is take care of some tax stuff. So it is an area that I think that we bring a lot of value to the table when it comes to retirement planning and tax planning and wrapping those two things together, Jen, because it is important. It is a big deal. It does play a big role in retirement. And people forget that. Look, the way to get started is you have to know where you are. And the only way to know where you are in terms of your retirement portfolio is a financial x-ray. Give us a call right now and schedule your time to visit with us to put together your financial x-ray. All you have to do is give us a call at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Jen, they can also go to our website, statlerfinancial.com. There's a button right there in the top right-hand corner, schedule a visit with Philip. Push that button. You'll have access to my calendar. You can schedule your own time. Best suits you. But do it today, 863-285-3815, or go to statlerfinancial.com, go to our calendar link there and schedule your appointment there. I look forward to seeing you. Don't wait too long. Do it now.
That's all the time we have on the Statler Financial Radio Show. Thanks for spending some time with us here today. We hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you next time.
In times of volatility, the only wrong move is not making one. Call Philip and the team at Statler Financial Services today and find out where you currently stand with your portfolio. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Information provided during the Statler Financial Radio Show is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. All investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. No strategy is guaranteed to be successful.
This radio show is a paid placement.
You can't see it, but you sure can feel it. The economy is struggling right now. Do you know how it might affect your retirement? Some retirement plans take into account economic downturns, stock market dips, interest rate fluctuations. Does yours? Take charge of your retirement by calling Philip Statler at 863-285-3815. Philip and his team at Statler Financial have been helping families prepare for retirement for over 20 years. They will help address the current economic situation and help you create a retirement plan designed to give you the confidence to move forward. Opportunities can exist regardless of economic conditions. Call the team, Philip Statler with Statler Financial at 863-285-3815 and find out ways you can prepare now for your retirement. Call 863-285-3815. Call them now. Schedule a visit. Let's get started. Firm offers insurance services. Advisory services are offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.